Hi, and welcome to SCW here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Survivor Series 2020 Best of the Best to preview and predictions is for you here on YouTube. Going to go through the entire match card, of course, updated match card after Raw last night, and giving you my predictions ahead of the show. We'll be touching on the Undertaker's final farewell as well later towards the end of the video. So without further ado, let's get straight into it, and let's talk about the Champions versus Champions matches first. Of course, every match is Raw versus SmackDown, and we got a WWE Championship title change last night. Drew McIntyre defeating Randy Orton. So no longer is it Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. It is WWE Champion Drew McIntyre against Universal Champion Roman Reigns, which arguably, in my opinion, is the biggest match that WWE can do right now. This, to me, feels like a WrestleMania main event caliber type of match. And if you look 18 months ago, these two took on one another in around sort of that mid to upper mid card area of WrestleMania 35. Arguably, you would say that both at the time felt quite bland. You would say Roman Reigns as a babyface, Drew McIntyre as a heel. In 18 months, the amount that people would care about these two characters now, you have to say it's been a great turnaround from WWE's creative of what they've done with these two, because arguably Roman Reigns is the hottest heel in the company. Drew McIntyre is on a great run of 2020. He has been fantastic. He's not just been booked so well as WWE champion and as a rising star, he feels like he's a permanent main eventer going forward. So for me, I'm really excited about this match, and I must say, with the change of the championship last night on Raw, I'm much more invested in this match now than what I was before. I would have enjoyed Randy Orton against Roman Reigns, but I just kind of felt that Randy Orton wasn't going to be winning. I thought it was going to be an obvious victory for Roman Reigns. And now I'm not so sure. Now I feel it can go either way. And that really excites me as a prospect of what's going to go on here. But to give you a prediction, because of course these two have had a slight bit of interaction. Of course, Roman Reigns did actually get confronted by Drew McIntyre on SmackDown last week. Drew obviously saying he was going to be representing Raw at Survivor Series, and Roman saying, well, you need a championship to get yourself to the table. Well, now Drew wants a spot at that table, and I'm looking forward to seeing these two face one another. Will Jey Uso get involved at some point during the match? That'll be interesting to see. One other note that I think that could be interesting to keep an eye on as well is The Miz. And the reason I say that, if I'm not mistaken, it will be 10 years to the day since The Miz cashed in his Money in the Bank back in 2010, of course, to win the WWE Championship from Randy Orton. And of course, that was also apparently in the Amway Center. So that for me is an interesting note, because if you go back to Hell in a Cell, The Miz actually did say, keep an eye out, WWE Champion and Universal Champion. Of course, The Miz has been teasing to cash in this Money in the Bank for weeks now. It would be interesting if he was to do that at this pay-per-view. Now, of course, that could be afterwards, but if you go back to WrestleMania 31, Seth Rollins actually cashed in during the main event between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns and won the WWE Championship. So I wonder if The Miz could be here to actually protect the two superstars. The Miz could come in mid-match, think both of these guys are out of it, I'm going to cash in my briefcase now, and I could win one or both, well, one of two championships on offer in the ring right now. So I think that could be the scapegoat here to actually protect Roman and Drew in this match, and then perhaps The Miz is the one that's pinned, doesn't get a championship, and of course the other superstar loses, but their shoulders weren't pinned to the mat. So that is a bold prediction I'm going to make to happen in this video. But if there's going to be a result, I'm going to go for Roman Reigns to pick up the victory, because one way or another, we need a winner and we need a loser. So if The Miz does come in and interact and gets pinned, we still need a winner. So Roman Reigns, regardless of what happens, I say will win the match here to give a point to SmackDown. I think Drew McIntyre's done well to get here, but I just think there'll be some sort of controversy that will cost him at this point. It'll be interesting of what it could be. If it was not The Miz, like I say, Jey Uso could be one. There seems to be a building relationship with Sheamus going on. One is a face in Drew, Sheamus is a heel. I do think we're going to get a program with these two somewhere further down the line now for the WWE Championship. And I'm excited to see when that will come along, by the way. I think that'll be really exciting as a program. I think both of these are two heavy hitters and should be an exciting match. To give a full prediction, I'm going to go for Roman Reigns. I think there's multiple possibilities around this match. I just feel it will be a bit messy because I think they want to protect the other superstar. But this here is WrestleMania caliber. It's a worthy match of that sort of environment right now, and I'm pleased to see we're getting at Survivor Series. I think that this has made me so much more pumped for this event, and I'm really looking forward to this match. But as I say, as a final note and a final prediction, I will go for Roman Reigns to pick up the victory here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went either way. Let's go then with the women's champions against one another. Then we've got the Raw Women's Champion Asuka against Sasha Banks. Now, of course, these two no strangers to one another. They fought all through the summer, really. Sasha Banks winning the Raw Women's Championship. Of course, then she lost it back to Asuka. But what we have to remember back then, Sasha Banks never won the belt cleanly on any occasion. Asuka was always screwed out of the championship. Then, of course, Asuka got 2 clean victories over Sasha Banks here. But since then, these two have gone on very different paths. Asuka's sort of had no direction as the champion on Raw, it feels, in my personal opinion, where Sasha, we've had the breakup with Bayley, we've had that championship match, and of course Sasha winning. She's then managed to retain the belt against Bayley as well. Sasha Banks is on a roll right now, and it feels like she's almost like the #1 woman in the company right now, and I think that this match is going to solidify that. I think that's why this match has been put together, because you look at these two, they always put out a great match, so I'm expecting fireworks with these two, but I think Sasha Banks finally gets the clean victory here over Asuka. That's right, I'm giving another point to SmackDown. I think Sasha Banks defeats Asuka here at Survivor Series. Next, let's look then at the Tag Team Championships. We've got the Raw Tag Team Champions, the New Day, against the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits. And ironically enough, when the WWE draft happened, these two had the opposite belts. But now, of course, they're on opposite shows. They represent the opposite brand. I'm really excited for this match. I think, of course, both of them are fantastic tandems in the ring. I have a feeling there's going to be some good chemistry here. And, the 2 top babyface tag teams as well. So this one really feels like it's on the fence and could go either way. I was always feeling at one point that the New Day would win here. But as we're getting closer to the event, I have this feeling that we could get a passing of the torch, if you want, because the New Day, let's say they've been, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in tag team wrestling during the 10s, that full decade we've had there. The New Day have been on the top for so long, and this is a great platform and a great place where the Street Profits could finally be seen as, the future, the top tag team going forward. It would really solidify them as a team if they were to pick up a victory at the Survivor Series. So I'm thinking rather head, I'm going with heart here. I think that the Street Profits, they should get the victory here. I'd like to see them have that moment at Survivor Series and they can push on and then they can do what they need to do on SmackDown. The New Day, a loss doesn't hurt the New Day at this stage of the game. Like I said, they've had such a great run. They're, 9-time tag team champions? I think a loss here doesn't hurt. So I'm going to go for the Street Profits. And yes, we've got SmackDown on a roll here. SmackDown are winning 3-0 in my predictions. Match 4, the United States Champion against the Intercontinental Champion. Bobby Lashley, of course, the United States Champion, taking on Sami Zayn, the Intercontinental Champion. And thankfully, Bobby Lashley's sisters are not being involved in the storyline for this match. But I do like what they have done this time. The build's been so much better this time than last time, and they've rarely interacted. It just shows how bad it was when they faced one another a couple of years ago. But of course, Sami Zayn has said that Lashley, he's just the champion of the United States, where, Sami Zayn, he's the champion of the world for all the people represented in different countries. I like the way that this has been presented. And of course, we've got the powerhouse of Lashley against the cleverness of Sami Zayn, who's found a way to win on every single one of his matches recently, whether it be Apollo Crews on SmackDown by, having his legs stuck, underneath the ring where he couldn't get anywhere. We had handcuffs when he won the championship in the Triple Threat ladder match. He even used an exposed turnbuckle to beat Jeff Hardy in the rematch that they had for the Intercontinental Championship. So Sami is using his head a lot in these matches. He's finding ways to win. And I do wonder, will he find a way to win here against Bobby Lashley? Or will the powerhouse be too much for him to overcome? I've got a feeling that Raw is going to need a win here at some point. A bit of me wants Sami Zayn to win the match, but I think Raw needs to get a win. And the Hurt Business seem to be, as a stable, a good representation of Raw. They don't seem to let the side down. Of course, they took on Retribution and were successful there. They seem to be out turning their attention a lot to Championship Gold, which, of course, Lashley so far is the sole representative. But I feel that when it comes to representing the Raw brand here, I don't see the Hurt Business letting Raw down. So for that reason, I'm going to go for Bobby Lashley to pick up the victory here. And I do hope these two have a bit of length of time together. I think that this could be a good match and a good different clash of styles should it be given time to compete against one another in the ring come this Sunday. Let's go to the Survivor Series matches then, shall we? And let's first off, shall we? We could look at the women's Survivor Series matchup first, shall we? We've got a brand new lineup for the Raw now, women's team, because we did have Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, which were a part of the team, but they were written out last night on Raw. Apparently, Mandy Rose has picked up an injury, which she had an altercation with Nia Jax the week previously, which of course they had to then use storyline terms for Shayna Baszler to write her out in a 6-woman tag team match. Dana Brooke, they just didn't want her involved apparently without Mandy Rose, so both of them have been written out of the team. Dana Brooke, of course, was taken out by Reckoning, and replacing them, we actually have Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce, who in my opinion should have been in this lineup to begin with. So along with Peyton Royce, Lacey Evans, we've got the women's tag team champions of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, and we've got everyone's favourite superstar that goes for a table on a weekly basis, Lana. So yeah, this is an interesting dynamic Raw team we've got, and we look at the SmackDown side of things. We've had Bianca Belair qualify, and we've had the right squad so far of Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan. We still have 2 spots that have not been filled on SmackDown, which for me is very interesting. We're on the week here, and I think WWE just wants to screw up every YouTuber that puts their predictions out, if I'm being brutally honest. But if we look at how those spots are going to be filled, we can take that prediction and then we can look to say as a match how we think it's going to play out. So first off, with the women, I think will qualify for SmackDown. I think that we've had a storyline going where Natalya has been trying to qualify each and every week. She's not been involved in any decision to get into this Survivor Series match. She's not lost any qualifying match, but she's not won any either. I think she gets into the match somehow. And I think we're either going to have like a powerhouse like Tamina to perhaps complement, going against someone like Nia Jax in the match to have that sort of, heavy hitting. Or we could get Billie Kay as an opposed to Peyton Royce being in the match. That would be interesting if that was to work out. Looking into the match itself, I think that we're looking at one of 2 options here as a potential finale. I mentioned Natalya being involved in the match. I think that could also have a bit of a dynamic with her and Lana. Of course, they broke up as a team, but when they did the draft not so long ago from Raw to SmackDown. But as a finish of the match, I think we're either looking at the women's tag team champions to actually be the sole survivors with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, or on the SmackDown side, this is a great opportunity to actually push Bianca Belair, who was expected to be a big-time player. Now she's moved over to SmackDown. Michael Cole and Corey Groves have really sold the idea of her being involved here. So for that reason, I'm looking at SmackDown and I see a win here. I think Belair does eliminate Nia Jax. The question will be, will she defeat Baszler? I'm going to go and say that she does. I think Bianca Belair will be the sole survivor for the SmackDown team. The only way that will be different is if Bayley is put on the SmackDown women's team, which I think would be a good shout as well, by the way. If anything, that would be my preferred choice, and I would have Belair and Bayley as the 2 that would survive from the SmackDown team. But we'll have to wait and see how it's planned. But overall, I think it's a win for SmackDown. I see Belair as at this moment, the sole survivor. I assume as we get past SmackDown, I will probably give an updated video on the final brackets of what they do for these Survivor Series matches. Because as we go on to the men's Survivor Series match, SmackDown doesn't have their full team there either. So we are going on a guesswork of who the 5th member will be. But looking at the team we have so far for SmackDown, we've got Kevin Owens, we've got Jey Uso, who's on a roll right now, we've got King Corbin, and we've got Seth Rollins. We look at the Raw team, and the Raw team looks stacked on paper. We've got Keith Lee, we've got Sheamus, we've got Braun Strowman, we've got Matt Riddle, or just Riddle these days apparently he's just being called, and we've got of course the so-called captain AJ Styles, who has done a phenomenal job of building this match on the Raw side. I found the Raw team to be so entertaining on the build to this Survivor Series. The fact that AJ has been, giving himself the role as the so-called captain, no one liking that idea, how he's trying to rally the troops to get on together, the fact his heelish ways as well to make sure he doesn't get involved in any of the matches. I found it's been a real genius bit of booking. I have enjoyed it the whole way through. And looking at it, I mean, even this past week on Raw, they can't coexist, and this team lost against Retribution. It does make you think that will they come good, and I think the old saying goes, it will be all right on the night, and maybe that will be the case here with Team Raw. Looking at SmackDown, I mean, for me, Jey Uso, he's been booked so well, and what an opportunity this would be if he was to be a survivor on the Survivor Series team here and win everything for SmackDown. It would be great as well for, the tribal chief Roman Reigns as well, and that sort of Roman dynasty that we've got going on right now. But it's all interesting on what that fifth member is going to be. I'd like it to be Big E, just from a personal perspective, because I think Big E deserves that big push. I think Lars Sullivan could be a shout that could be in there as well. It'd be interesting to see who they will fill that spot with. I once thought Murphy could have been the guy, but it feels that now he's been set for a match this week on SmackDown instead, and he's going to be going against Seth Rollins. Of course, Rey Mysterio could find a way to get into this match somehow as well. Dominic Mysterio, there are endless possibilities of who could fill that fifth spot. I mean, for me, if I'm going to give a prediction here, what I want it to be SmackDown, because I feel it's the stars of the future, the people that could be pushed towards the top of the card. We're talking Jey Uso, we're talking Kevin Owens here, but I think the Raw team comes together on this show. Looking at it, I don't think everybody survives, but I think Raw here has 2 or 3 members that will walk away here victorious. We only have to mention Keith Lee last year had a most fantastic performance at Survivor Series, almost made his name to the world in WWE when he actually was in the final 2 against Roman Reigns when NXT were involved in the Survivor Series matches. So I expect Keith Lee to have another great run here in this Survivor Series. AJ, how good of him to have the bragging rights to go into Raw the next night saying he was the captain. Even if he wasn't a survivor, I think that would be even more entertaining. Sheamus, I mentioned it earlier in the video, perhaps a program with Drew McIntyre somewhere further on. Maybe it makes sense here for Sheamus to actually pick up a Survivor Series victory. I think, though, with the section with him and Braun Strowman, there is going to be a way that Braun Strowman will be eliminated from this match. And if it's, say, Lars Sullivan, for example, who's on the other side on SmackDown, perhaps a double count out, something that rules both of them guys out of the match. So there's lots of different variables of how this can work and how it can play out. But to give, at this point, what I can give you is the best prediction I can give. I'm going to go for Team Raw, and I think 2 or 3 members of the Raw team survive here. And if I had to pick those members, Keith Lee for definite, Sheamus, and I think AJ Styles could be the ones that will survive here. I think Jey Uso is the last person that will be around on SmackDown, and on those 3-on-1 odds, I think it keeps him protected, even though he doesn't win in this environment. But that's pretty much all the matches that have been announced for Survivor Series at this point. If there are any kickoff matches or extra matches, I will do an extra video and give you my thoughts on those. So don't worry, those will still come to the channel. But let's quickly talk about The Undertaker, shall we? 30 years since the debut of the Dead Man. The final farewell, it's been built up here. And I think this is a great platform, a great place to do this for The Undertaker. Arguably one of the greatest of all time to ever do it. And to think when you go back to 30 years ago, Survivor Series 1990, he was the mystery Survivor Series tag team partner, of course, of Ted DiBiase's, accompanied to the ring by Brother Love, and you could just see from a minute go the mannerisms, the way that he carried himself, that he was going to be a big deal. He went on for such a great undefeated run to become WWE champion at Survivor Series 91. Of course, he did lose it a few days later at Tuesday in Texas, but The Undertaker become one of the big main attractions for WWE throughout the 90s, was the guy that was always loyal. When you look back at the Monday Night Wars, all these superstars that went to WCW or to WWE, Undertaker was a constant through that Monday Night War, and he stayed loyal always to Vince McMahon, to the WWE, and he always got his great moments. WrestleMania 13 there, of course, when he won the championship in the main event against Sid. You look as well with other great moments, great programs with the likes of Mankind through 96, Kane through 98. You go through to the 2000s, some epic matches with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, the streak at WrestleMania. There's so many things synonymous with The Undertaker, and some of the match types we've seen as well with like Hell in a Cell, casket match. There's so many great things, Buried Alive, so many things that are linked to The Undertaker and his great career. One of this, of course, we mentioned a lot about the 90s there, was his friends backstage. He had like the BSK group he had rolling around with him, the likes of Savia Vega, the Godwins, superstars like that. There's been rumours that some of those will be there to help celebrate with The Undertaker at Survivor Series, and I think that'd be a really cool touch if we see that. Apparently this was a group that kept everyone in line back in the 90s backstage. If someone was getting out of line, say it was like rumoured to be someone like the Clique who probably trying to politic their way backstage, this was the group that kept everyone in line. So I'm excited to see how this is going to play out. I think it's going to be a nice spectacle moment. Some would argue and say this could be a good moment to perhaps put someone over and write The Undertaker off TV forever. But I think if you do that, you you almost invite the idea of another match for The Undertaker, and I don't think that's the right thing to do. The Undertaker's had his time. This is a great way to celebrate, like we've seen at the likes of Ric Flair, for example, on a Monday Night Raw at the night after he retired at WrestleMania 24. I want to see a moment like this. I think a great celebration of the great man, the great character that is The Undertaker, Mark Calloway. Perhaps some, of the best superstars, best rivals might come out and celebrate with him in the ring. Just have that toast and that big celebration of the dead man. I think would be a great way to do this, and possibly even could be a great way to finish off Survivor Series this year after we've had the matches, because this for me feels like a standout alone moment of its own. I think that this could be really touching. I think a lot of fans will be invested, interested, and would want to check this out. I think that for even old school nostalgia fans, I could see them going after this is aired. If they don't watch it live, they'd want to go and check this moment out. So I'm excited to see what it brings. But that's everything for me anyway on this particular video. This has been the Survivor Series preview and predictions. Let me know your predictions in the comments below. Certainly interested to know what you think of the show going into this Sunday. Are you Team Raw or are you Team SmackDown? I think for my predictions, it feels like I'm Team SmackDown here, doesn't it? So I've gone for the blue brand to pick up the overall victory. I'd like to know your thoughts as well. Is this Survivor Series missing NXT? It's an interesting little antidote before we come off the video. I do think that although it was fun having NXT last year, I do think it goes against the traditions of NXT. Of course, it's the third brand. It's kind of meant to be developmental. I like to see them building the stars for their future. It's great to see them test themselves against the main roster, but if they were to win Survivor Series again, it does make Raw and SmackDown look bad. And if they were to get walloped by Raw and SmackDown, it doesn't make them look great either. So for that reason, and with COVID, the pandemic all going on, I'm kind of happy that those rosters are being kept separate right now. And although it's more bragging rights, I'd like to see something on the line. Maybe, if SmackDown or Raw were to win this, I'd like them to get a draft trade, or it's a WrestleMania main event, or the Royal Rumble 30 spot, something. It would have been good if something was riding on the line for this. But as for a series of matches and a series of spots, I mean, because the build for this year has been more like the position. You want to represent your side of the brand rather than actually, get something else out of this. I think that WWE have done as good a job as they can do without doing invasion angles and stuff like that. So fingers crossed this will be a good show. I'm looking forward to it. I think that particularly with the last minute change now, we've got Drew McIntyre against Roman Reigns. That feels big time for me. I'm really excited to see what that match brings and how that will finish. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. As I say, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications for when more videos are released. I'm sure to be dropping at least 1 or 2 more videos this week before Survivor Series. And of course, we've got the Q&A coming up on Sunday. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a great day. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube.